Alrighty, guys, let's get back into some Higurashi. Last time was very depressing, and yeah, that sums it up pretty well. Oh God, the insane stuff about Oishi being the messenger of Uyashiro-sama, which God, I don't know. I don't know. I talked about that for 10 minutes last time. So, if you want to see my thoughts on that, go listen to that again. I'm not just going to start talking about it again. So, Keiichi said he's going to get a bat to defend himself, which is kind of ominous. Yeah, I guess let's keep going. Let's keep going. This was the first time I'd ever woken up with such clarity. It was 5:59, just moments before my alarm would go off. I was amazed at the precision of my internal clock. It is very interesting how your body can do that. I had made preparations for the next day of school before I went to bed. I changed quickly and descended to the deserted lower floor. It appeared that my mom was still asleep. Neither breakfast nor lunch was ready. Yesterday, I just unilaterally declared that I would be leaving early today, so it couldn't be helped. And this is not going to go well. Whatever this whole leaving early thing, separating himself more from his friends, is just not. I slathered jam on some bread and topped it with instant cocoa. Just as I was finishing up breakfast, Mom rose groggily from her slumber.
あら、ケイチ、今日は早いのね。学校の行事か何か？
別に。
Answering bluntly, I picked up my bag and stood after stuffing 2 slices of bread down my throat.
もう行くの？お弁当は？
And it's the result of what he's doing is separating him from everyone in his life. It's separating him from his mom too, right? His mom always makes him breakfast and all of that. It's like in the last chapter, he was doing all that talking about how the food was bland and tasted like nothing. And yeah, and that's now his decision to approach the issue like this is separating him from his friends and from his family, just from everyone in his life.
もうちょっと待ってくれないとできないわよ。
If I waited for her to make my lunch, then it would end up being the same time as usual. If I did that, it would raise the chances of me running into Rena and Mion on the way. Yes, from today onwards, I was going to school alone.
今日はいいよ。
じゃあお昼はどうするの？
抜け出して商店で菓子パンでも買うよ。
そう。じゃあこれ、お昼代ね。ちゃんとレシート持ってくるのよ。
I'm just thinking about how this, he had that conversation with his parents last night too, about how he said, if he dies, to put the clock in his wall and all that. I'm just trying to think what his mom's going through her head, he's acting so weird. I took the 1,000 yen bill from Mom and slipped it into my pocket.
こんなに早いけど、レナちゃんたちもこんなに早いの？
いや、俺だけ。
レナちゃんには早く出るって伝えてあるの？
I have no reason to tell her every little detail, now do I? Yeah, he's just closing himself off from everyone. Finding it difficult answering the onslaught of questions, I made an annoyed
レナ
face.
が来たら、ケイチは先に行ったって伝えてよ。
ちょっとケイチ、待ちなさい。
It's not that I didn't trust my parents. I just couldn't rely on them. Yeah, and I guess he was talking about how, he feels like, he has to not get them involved, so he feels like he's doing this for their sake as well. Because he thinks if they learn anything, they would also become targets. They couldn't help me. I could only hope that they didn't get involved. It was safer that way. My mom's annoying voice was cut off by the slam of the door. For the first time since I moved here, I headed down the road to school alone. It's all alone now. Up until now, I had always walked down the same path at the same time each day. So I always met with the same people at the same places. But today was different. I didn't meet the people I would normally, and nobody was at the places where I would have normally met them. Of course, Rena wasn't in the spot where we usually met, and there wasn't anyone at the spot where we would have met up with Mion. The length of the tree shadows, the morning air, and the brightness of the sun, it was a completely different type of morning from what I was used to. Everything's changed. Without a doubt, it felt strange. It left me with the impression that I had destroyed the illusion Hinamizawa had set up for me before it had enough time to prepare all of the props needed to deceive me. It's a very negative way of thinking.
あら、ケイチくん。今朝は早いわね。みんなで早朝から待ち合わせ？
Just him. The person who called out to me was someone we always passed by as they were taking a walk along the edge of the fields. Their name was, I forgot. Of course, this wasn't the spot where we usually passed each other.
今朝は早くに目が覚めちゃったので、気分転換なんです。あまり気にしないでください。
I threw out a random
レナ
excuse.
ちゃんやミオンちゃんはどうしたんだい？今日は一人なの？
ええ、まあ。
I was being asked the same type of questions my mom was asking, so I answered them in the same uninteresting, vague manner. It wasn't funny being asked where Rena was each time I passed by someone, but maybe it was to be expected. It was because for so long, we were always together so amicably. Even I felt that if I let my guard down, we could still be free. Stop it, Keiichi. Yeah, it's just... He's just completely... He's locked in on this way of thinking about it. That he has to cut himself off from everyone, and that, you know... Even though, again, just... That has done nothing but make it worse for him in the past. So... Don't think about that anymore. You spent all day yesterday thinking about how dangerous it was to go soft, didn't you? Beep. A car horn blared from out of nowhere. Even though I was walking, lost in thought, that horn was way too close. A mechanical behemoth barreled at me from behind, catching me completely off guard. By the time I turned around, the van's hulking chassis was almost entirely... He's just gonna get hit by a car? Like, what? I'd seen plenty of cars veer to the opposite shoulder to avoid pedestrians, but this car was doing the opposite. It felt like there was somebody on the opposite shoulder, and the van was swerving in my direction to avoid them. That blissfully ignorant train of thought delayed me from realizing something much, much more important. The large mass was hurtling right at me. Awesome, cool. Okay, so now I'm just gonna get hit by a car and die. All right, I guess that'll be a good ending to the chapter. Yeah. Was it going to hit me? The inside of my head instantly flooded with a painfully cold liquid. In that moment, the scene before me, no, time itself, had frozen. In the silence of that frozen moment, I compared the van, so close that I had no way to dodge it, and my body, the upper half twisted awkwardly in order to look behind me. There was no way I could dive out of the way in my current position. If I lost focus now, this moment would unpause, and I would probably be plowed over, caught in this silly pose. Bend my upper body over towards the paddy by the side of the road. If I bent far enough, I'd get away with just being hit by the side view mirror. As soon as the thought crossed my mind, the temporal stasis was shattered by the deafening sound of the van. The side mirror struck my shoulder, sending me spinning off through the air like a top, locked in my contorted position. What is going on? Like, hello? Flash. Sent tumbling through the air, I crashed into the muddy paddy by the side of the road. I guess that's better than getting hit by a car. My entire body was soiled and drenched, but the choice I had made in that instant was unmistakably for the best. I was covered in mud, but when the alternative was being hit by the car, it was the closest I could be to being unscathed. I'm just envisioning, like, just think about, just, again, ever since Keiichi has made this decision, okay, I'm gonna cut myself off from everyone, and have, you know, it's just gonna be me. I'm gonna deal with this alone, and not talk to anyone about it. Think about how things have gone for him, right? Like, I'm not saying that in his, like, situation, that it would be, like, good to tell his parents or good to try and talk to his friends. I mean, I think he should. No, I really think he should at least try that, because he literally just hasn't even tried. But, like, at least talking to his friends in a way that isn't, like, weird and accusatory, right? And it's like, I'm just thinking about how ever since he made that decision, just things have just gotten worse and worse for him. Now he's lying in a mud puddle. Like, it just feels like the author is just telling me, okay, what he's doing, his decision is bad, and this is not right. Rising out from the paddy, I had enough in me to glare over at the stopped van and yell profanities at the driver. I'm not sure if he was able to see me, but the van sped off suddenly. And, like, if that was, like, you know, I'm assuming, I mean, I guess I don't know, but if that is just some random person who decided they wanted to run him over, like, for one, you could take that to be, like, similar to the stuff Oishi was saying in the cafe about how, like, you know, everyone in Hinami's always a demon who groups up together to eat people. Like, it reminds me of that idea, right? I don't know. I wonder what's up, what's going on here, I guess. It sure was, Keiichi. I couldn't help but continue yelling out profanities. The disgrace from being covered in mud hurt me more than any physical wounds. I slogged through the muddy paddy and made my way back onto the road. Yeah, it sure is. Shit, I'll track you down and sue you. If I go looking for a van, I'm sure to find it in this little village. The path I was on had rice paddies on either side, and it had become so narrow that one car could barely fit through. It wasn't a place you could tear full speed down in a car, let alone pass by pedestrians. Not only was it a narrow road, but the car just now was closer to my side of the road than the other when it went to pass me. I'm surprised he's not thinking like, okay, maybe they tried to do that to me on purpose, because he's been so paranoid and so, Even as I cursed, I was desperately trying to suppress the dark cloud roiling up within me. Yeah, this wasn't just a hit and run. That car just now was trying to run me over, wasn't it? Because, okay, wait, I just, I literally don't know how I haven't thought about this until now, because it's so obvious. I've been talking about how I've mentioned a million times how his decision to cut himself off from everyone and all of this has made things so much worse for him, right? We've been talking this whole time about how the curse, whatever the curse is, targets outsiders, right? Well, what's Keiichi doing to himself right now, right? He's just making himself an outsider. He is cutting himself off from everyone in the village that he has a relationship with. He's walking to school alone at a time he doesn't normally walk to school, right? So now he is totally an outsider, right? If the village hates outsiders and tries to kill them, Keiichi, all he has done now is paint a giant target on his back and make himself an outsider, Thinking back, I did feel like there had been a car creeping up on me slowly for a while. That's right. As soon as I'd parted ways with that person taking a walk, I had that feeling the whole time. Oh, so as soon as you were alone and you looked like an outsider. If I had wanted it to pass me, then if it had wanted to pass me, then it had no shortage of chances. Normally, I would have felt suspicious and turned around sooner. But I was lost in thought, and now was kicking myself for not realizing it was there sooner. And then, when the path became narrow and there was no one else in sight, he floored it. If I had hesitated for even a moment, the result would have been no laughing matter. As the adrenaline rush from nearly being run over subsided, and the realization of just how terrifying the preceding events were sunk in, there was no doubt about it. That van was intentionally trying to hit me. A cold, viscous sweat seeped from my scalp and slid down my back before dribbling off. I struggled to avoid falling into a panic. There was still the possibility that this really was just an accident. Calm down, Keiichi. But also don't be so naive, Keiichi. Being that lax will get you killed next time. You need to always be on your toes. Don't give them any openings. Yeah, I mean, he just has this, double thing going on in his mind, where he can't decide what he should be thinking. I mean, just his immediate defense mechanism was just to cut himself off from everyone, and, yeah. I'm trying to think what I would do in his situation. I just don't know. I just have no idea. Because it's just so awful. If my enemy was really out to kill me, then next time they would use a more reliable method. If that time came and I was acting like I was now, getting covered in mud was the price I had paid for my own naivete. Covered in mud, but without injury. Not even a sprain. I guess this was what you would call the silver lining. I began walking again, this time cautiously. I wouldn't even show a hint of carelessness. I had suspected only Rena and the others up until now. No, it was because I had suspected them that I had believed there were no other enemies. Uishi-san had said so, didn't he? There was the possibility of a village conspiracy. I mean, because now he's just going to have in his mind that everyone in the village is out to kill him. Which maybe is true, I don't know. But all that's going to do is make him make himself more of an outsider, right? That has been his reaction and his defense mechanism to everything that's happened so far with Rena and Neon and everyone. So now he's just gonna go even further into it and make himself even more of an outsider, and it's just gonna get even worse for him, and then they're gonna kill him. So, was I really mired so deeply in this situation that I had no choice but to try and carry on as usual? Wouldn't it be safest just to hole myself up in my house? But the moment I abandoned my regular routine, everyone around me would abandon theirs as well. That was just too horrifying of a thought. Didn't Keiichi's mom say something like that? I recalled the tale Zoichi-san told me of when Hinamizawa was still called Onikakushi. A frightening tale of an entire village of demons hunting their prey, surrounding them and eating them alive. One must not interfere with the demons. One must pretend not to see it. The enemies were numerous, the whole village. The villagers with their unwavering faith in the curse would do nothing to help me. But if he's thinking about this as if it's how Hinamizawa is now, right? That one has to not interfere with the demons, one must pretend not to see it. He is not his behavior and the way he's acting is not in line with that at all. He is acting, yeah, he has abandoned his regular routine, you know. He is not pretending not to see it at all. So, the enemies were numerous, the whole village. The villagers, with their unwavering faith in the curse, would do nothing to help me. The strong, sudden flash of sunshine made me slightly dizzy. I had no idea what was going on anymore. When I suspected it was the work of man, I would catch a glimpse of Oyashiro-sama's curse. And when I suspected it was Oyashiro-sama's curse, someone would poke their head out. What was coincidence? What was intentional? Who was my enemy? Who was just a bystander? No, what I really, truly wanted to know was, how did I end up with the proverbial bullseye painted on my back? I think I have a pretty good idea of how you have it now. I mean, I don't have an idea of why it's like this, I guess, but I think I have a good idea of what actions he has taken that is now making it much worse for him, right? Like, and yeah, I mean, and just this whole the dilemma between the curse or it being people doing it, they're just equally insane to me. I have no idea which one's the thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, someone trying to kill him with their car. If that was intentional, which obviously Keiichi is going to see it as that person was trying to kill him. It's possible it wasn't, right? It's possible it wasn't. There's no way to know. God. Because, like, it could be both. It could be there's a curse making people act crazy. And, you know, it's people doing it because the curse is making them act crazy. Eventually, an answer in a form I could understand will appear. I don't care when that will happen. Because until then, I cannot die. That alone fueled my resolve to fight and will keep me alive. I remembered seeing the metal bat in the gym storage shed, but there was a padlock on the door barring my entry. At the very least, I wanted to get my hands on it before everyone else arrived at school. It's just so interesting how he feels the need to arm himself when, I guess I was going to say no one has physically attacked him, but, you know, a car just tried to run him over. So I guess if he's thinking of it like that, yeah. Because I feel like based off what's happened so far, if he is going to be the victim of the curse or whatever, which for one, it still doesn't make sense to me because the curse is supposed to happen on Watanagashi, and we're like a week out from Watanagashi now, so I don't know what that's all about. But if he's going to be a victim of the curse of some kind, I don't know what a metal bat is possibly going to do to help defend him. I circled around the school grounds impatiently. But all I could find were things like pieces of lumber, nothing that I could bring into the classroom easily. Then, I had an epiphany. I should search inside the classroom. If it was something in the classroom to begin with, then there wouldn't be a problem. I could tell that everyone's indoor shoes were still in their lockers. Good thing I came early. Nobody else was here yet. I wondered, what could I find in the classroom? I didn't think I could find an especially effective weapon like a bat, but it couldn't be helped at this point. Until the gem storage shed was open, I needed to find a substitute. A lingering hint of naivete whispered that there was no way I'd be attacked at school. Well, he was just attacked on the way to school, so... But such soft ideas would no longer protect me. To think that they were slowly making their way into parts of my life that I had once thought impenetrable. In the worst case, my own house might not be safe anymore. That was an incredibly frightening thought. But I believed that not considering the worst case scenario would have been even more frightening. Anyway, I will survive. So long as I lived, then I will definitely be able to escape this labyrinth of nonsense. Definitely. My exploration of the classroom came to an impasse. That much was to be expected. There was no way there would be anything that could be a weapon in the classroom. In case of emergency, there was probably nothing I could do but swing my own chair around. My gaze landed on the lockers that had come to be used for personal storage. The locker that Mion used to store her pile of games was among them. There's going to be a gun inside. There was one for each person in the class, all lined up. Of course, there was one for me as well. Oh yeah, there was supposed to still be a tracksuit in my locker. Seeing me covered in mud would be strange. True, I forgot he's completely covered in mud. I don't think there's anything I want to say about this, but I mean, it just feels like it's just more of the same. Just Keiichi being, you know, just getting worse for him. Like, I should go change later. But first, I needed a weapon. If one of my classmates came, it would be hard to rummage through all the lockers. I swiftly began opening the lockers one by one. They were mostly just filled with things like gym clothes, personal items, and umbrellas. An umbrella. If I couldn't find anything better, then this would have to be my weapon. I was about to give up on finding anything decent when I opened a locker that held exactly what I wanted. It was, without a doubt, a metal bat. You know, we've had a bad history with bats. Metal bats have not been anything good so far. So, you know, there's the whole Rena stuff at her school. There's the opening scene, the first scene of the entire, visual novel at the very start, which certainly sounded quite bat-like. It was well worn and pretty beaten up, but there was no doubt it was usable. In that locker that reeked of mold, there was also a hung baseball uniform. It was probably the locker of a student in a Pee-wee league or something like that. If that was the case, then he'd probably ask for it back. At that time, I could hear the voices of the children scuffling their way noisily in from the hallway. Amongst them, I could make out Rika-chan and Sadako. We haven't had nice, pleasant music in so long. You know, the depressing melancholy one is nice and pleasant, but it's depressing and melancholy. I nonchalantly hid the bat I was holding behind my back. Just hiding a bat behind your back. Alright, sure. Oh god, the sad thing is like, as far as we know, Rika and Sadako don't have anything to do with any of this, right? I mean, we don't really have any reason to think Mion or Rena do either, frankly, but as far as we know, both of them are victims of the curse who their parents were killed by it. So, like, just Keiichi, the fact that he's gonna have to, distance himself from them as well, it's just so sad. With that said, I began taking off my clothes. Sadako began to blush just as I expected her to. As Sadako feigned disgust, she went into the hall, still blushing. Conversely, Rika-chan continued to stare at me, preparing to change. Alright. She deliberately pouted and looked at me with upturned eyes. Rika-chan, appearing to be satisfied with being considered a lady, made her way to join Sadako in the hallway. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, Rika-chan stopped suddenly and turned back towards me. She sees the bat. It seems that Rika-chan had noticed the bat. Can't tell anyone. She was talking like an old lady, despite her appearance. After saying that, Rika-chan started to leave again, but stopped and looked back at me once more. It seemed she already knew I took it out of someone's locker. There was no name on the locker door. I didn't know whose bat it was, but I would be borrowing it until they complained. It wouldn't be for long, just until the gym storage shed was opened. After quickly changing into the tracksuit, I checked the time. I still had plenty of time before class began because I came so early. I took the bat in one hand and went out to the schoolyard. That was, of course, to practice my swing. He's gonna do it out in the... Okay. I needed to make it known I would always have a bat on me so I could practice my swing. Okay, so like... I've just said the same thing 50 times, but... all this is doing is making him stand out more, making it more clear that he's an outsider. Like, literally, what he's saying here is like, okay, I'm gonna make it so I seem like more of an outsider who doesn't trust anyone. Surely that's the best thing to do to stop them from killing me for being an outsider. At some point, the sunlight had become even stronger. Disregarding my classmates as they made their way into school, I took my position in the shadow of the school building. I wasn't the academic type, and I wasn't much of an athlete either. I might get muscle pain if I just suddenly started swinging. I should at least start out with some warm-ups. I doubt anyone would think I was doing something out of the ordinary, which was the exact opposite of my actual mental state. I gripped the bat and swung lightly. Is that just the exact same sound effect as the one at the start of the first scene? The bat was by no means light. The weight would make it a reliable weapon when I needed it to be. Awesome. Great. Of course, I could only pray that the moment I needed to use this as a weapon would never come. I think it's going to. Just carrying it around could deter attacks against me. At least, that's what I hoped. Yeah, it's... Dude. Oh, hi. Being bombarded with such a hysterical voice, I jumped. It was Rena and Mion.
先に行ったって言われて驚いたけど、ケイちゃん、あんた何やってるわけ？
見てわからないかよ。
They're just acting so normal. I just, like...
素振りだよ。甲子園だよ。
The championship.
別にダイエットでもいいぞ。
ダイエットってケイちゃん、そんなに太ってたっけ？
ああ、知らなかったろ。実は三段腹なんだ。もちもちでタプタプなんだぞ。
もちもちでタプタ
Rena,
プ。
please. It's crazy that they can still joke around like this and like, dude.
レナ、変な想像しなくていいぞ。
To disrupt Rena from imagining something that vulgar, I ruffled her hair messily. Like, he's still just being this close with them, but like...
じゃあまあ、頑張って県大会を目指してちょうだいよ。おじさん応援してるわ。野球部の強い高校
Oh god, she knows about basketball, huh? I mean, not baseball, not basketball.
そこにいるサワンの亀田君がすごいピッチャーなんだけどさ。
Why does she know?
頑張ってね。
Seems like they've already taken me for a baseball nut, but oh well. Well, if I really did make it to the championship, it would be a cinch. After all, I'd be the pitcher and the catcher. I'd pitch the ball, then run past the ball I just threw, and change over to being the catcher in a burst of super incredible explosive speed. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I laughed dryly at the ludicrous image. He's gonna get mad at himself. Coming back to my senses, I smashed the bat against the ground. Yeah.
何笑ってんだよ、俺。
I pounded the ground over and over because it's just the same. It's the same thing as me, right? As the person reading it's like, it's so hard after everything we've seen to think of this as the type of situation that Keiichi is viewing it as, right? As people want to kill him, and like, it's so easy to excuse everything and just think everything can just go back to normal, right? And like, all this stuff I've been saying about how Keiichi's making himself an outsider through his behavior, I'm not saying that that's like stupid of him or something. I'm not saying it's like that it doesn't make sense. I'm not saying it's like even a bad decision. I'm just saying through the context of how the story has been written, I think it is just going to result in bad things for him. It's not like me saying he's being dumb and making bad decisions with the information he has. I pounded the ground over and over. With each impact, the reverberation traveling through the bat stung my hands. If they smile at me like that, don't allow anyone close to me. Don't trust anyone. No matter how many times I tell myself that. If they made me smile like that, But yeah, it's just... I already knew quite well that there were demons dwelling in my smiling friends. Like, we've set it up so... It's been set up so clearly by the author, right? Keiichi's actions, what he's doing, is this. Don't trust anyone, don't be close to anyone, cut yourself off from everyone, be a loner, right? Obviously, that's a bad if all of this worked out for Keiichi, and somehow the moral of the story is, when you're faced with hardship in relationships, cut yourself off from everyone. I don't think that's going to be it. So, I'm thinking things are going to continue to get worse, and Keiichi is going to die. Because this is his approach to the problem, right? I already knew quite well that there were demons dwelling in my smiling friends, but I just couldn't believe it. Did that kind of split personality really exist? I have no idea if that's what it is. Like how Rena confessed to the doctor. Were they simply being possessed by Urashiro-sama? In other words, did a supernatural being like Urashiro-sama really exist, and was it possessing everyone to try and kill me? Yeah, that would be wonderful. If only everyone were actually my friends all along, and everything was just Urashiro-sama's fault. Like, Because, like, yeah, if you word it like that, it sounds ridiculous to even consider the Oyashiro-sama angle, right? But the other angle is just as ridiculous. Like, you could phrase it in just as ridiculous way. Like, yeah, actually, all along, all of your friends have been crazy, manipulative psychopaths who've been pretending, and they actually want to kill you. Like, I think that's just as ridiculous as this line.
前原圭一のバカ野郎だから
I yelled out, drawing out all the power from the pit of my stomach, and raised the bat violently into the air.
甘えるんじゃね
That's rough. As I screamed out with all my might, I beat the metal bat into the ground over and over. With every impact, my weakness was being beaten down. Smash. Forget. Smash. Don't be soft. Isn't this literally just the opening scene? Like, am I crazy? Wasn't the opening scene literally I assume it's Keiichi was the narrator of the opening scene. Him saying, like, with every swing, I forget a little more, right? Like, it's just, like, oh my god. Smash, know your enemy. Smash, like hell I'd let them kill me. My shoulders heaving up and down from my ragged breathing, I heard the first bell ring just as I calmed down. Fuck, dude, this sucks. I gasped with sudden realization. That was the final bell. Alright, we don't get anything from school. As I felt all the tension drained from me, I let out a deep breath. Right, we don't get anything from school because it's like the scenes during school are the ones where we would have like nice, happy, slice of life fun with all our friends, right? No, that's all over now. That's all done with. My mind was in a muddled state for much of the entire day. I didn't feel like I was awake, but I didn't feel like I was asleep either. Like, we are going to get a break from the tension and from all of this, right? Because that's what Keiichi is experiencing in the story, you know? I couldn't say it felt especially comfortable, but I felt a kind of relief that the sanctity of the school part of my daily life had yet to be violated. How long would I have to keep on living like this? I could only grit my teeth and bear with it as this living hell slowly gnawed away at me.
ケイチくん、やろうやろう。
I don't think so, Rena.
部活の時間なんだよ。だよ。
Sound of Rena's voice brought me back to my senses.
ほらほら、ケイちゃん、ぼーっとしない。机を寄せて寄せて。
Everyone was moving their desks together as usual. That's right, it was happy, fun club time. There's no more of that there, is there? But I had no intention of taking part. I haphazardly stuffed the contents of my desk into my bag as I prepared to go home. It was a weak-handed gesture to avoid having to actually say, I'll be going home now.
なんだよ、ケイちゃん。今日も直帰なわけ？
Mion sounded quite disappointed. Yeah, and I think she is. Yeah, it's not... she's not a crazy, manipulative psychopath.
気分が乗らないんだ。しばらくほっといてくんないかな。
The tone of the words that spilled from my mouth matched Mion's disapproving glare. It felt like the air in the room had dried out. Sadako looked like she was about to say something, but perhaps dissuaded by the mood, swallowed her words and stayed silent. Oh, man. Nobody said a thing. I took that to mean that I could leave if I wanted. But the collective gaze of the four of them, like the tiny pins used to mount an insect in a display, held me in place. Reno was the one who cut through the heavy mood.
ケイチくん、やっぱり女の子と一緒に遊ぶの
I
なん
know,
嫌だったかな。
like, God, like, I know, I mean, it's just, like, I just feel like a broken record because I just keep saying the same things, but it's just, like, the author, as much as he possibly can, everything he is doing, he's making it hurt and be as painful as possible for Keiichi to take the approach he's taking, right? Like, this feels horrible that he's doing this. She said it in such a melancholic tone that it sent a wave of pain racing through my heart. If this pain was going to kill me, I wanted it to be the soft part of me that could still feel pain. I tore at my chest, violently tearing out the pins that held me in place.
そういうわけじゃねえよ。
I'd only be hurting myself by saying anything more, so I swallowed my words. You wouldn't be. You have to try and communicate in some way. Like, come on. And not in, like, a crazy accusatory way, like the only time you did before, where you just accused them of hiding stuff from you. Cutting things off there, I turned away and exited the classroom. Because, like, he's doing the same thing with his parents, right? He's hiding things from them. Like, you can say it's naive to think that them hiding the curse and the murders and everything was for his own sake, like what he's doing for his parents, what he thinks he's doing for his parents, but it's just, he's doing the same thing. He's hiding stuff from them too, right? All the stuff with Oishi. They didn't speak a word to me as I left. It was a long, dull trip back home, but I didn't lose focus. I firmly squeezed the grip of the bat, which was already soggy from sweat. Realizing that, I wiped it down with my sleeve. If something were to happen, I wouldn't want it to be slippery. Since this morning, I'd become especially sensitive to the presence of cars. Yeah, I can imagine. Even while walking, my ears pricked up and sought out threatening sounds and presences that could be closing in. And that was why I could hear it. Without a doubt, they were footsteps. Those footsteps had matched up perfectly with mine for a while now. From what I could sense, it was just one person, but I had no intention of being careless. Did they intend to follow me like that car this morning until we were in a good location to assault me? Then it wasn't a good idea to keep walking like this. I stopped walking and looked back. The wooded path crowded with trees responded with silence as if there was nobody there to begin with. But I wouldn't be fooled. I was certain footsteps were following me. Is he crazy? Is he losing his mind? Because that is the secret third option here that is honestly more believable than either of the other ones, is that Keiichi is going insane. And just as I stopped, the footsteps stopped as well, meaning the person following me wanted to keep their distance. That was, without question, proof that I was their target. I held my breath, waiting for that presence to panic and start moving again. The trees rustled with the sound of the wind. The Higurashi also joined in the dissonant chorus, trying to throw my focus into disarray. Had 5 minutes passed? Or had I been like this for a whole 30 minutes? It was so hard to breathe that I might have suffocated. It seemed I would be the first one to panic. Without a doubt, he was lurking in the shade of that tree with bated breath. Then, I'd make the first move. I fixed my grip on the bat. I raised it up on my shoulder to be ready to swing it at any time. With all of my might, I screamed at whoever was hiding in the shade of the trees. But the presence in the shade didn't budge. Until the moment I found them, they had no intention of revealing themselves. Is there anyone there? Is he losing his mind? Like... I screamed out angrily at them again, but even still, they didn't move at all. It's almost like you could view this as like, you know, him yelling out at nothing about how he knows already. It's just like an encapsulation of his entire mindset about everything, right? He's just gotten this crazy thing in his mind where he thinks everyone's out to kill him and that there's this village conspiracy or a curse that's going to murder him and all of this, you know. It's like, I'm not saying he doesn't have reason to believe that because of the weird stuff that Mion and Rina have done, but he might just be going crazy. Then I'll go over there myself. With all due vigilance, I approached, step by step. Stepping into the tree's shadow, I saw a human figure there. That figure was curled up like a small animal. Oh, it's just Rina. When she realized I had found her, her expression softened. She seemed apologetic, but she wasn't going to speak a word. I wouldn't accept that silence and screamed the question at her. Rina was in a panic with tears welling up in her eyes. Dude, but it was obvious that she had been following me. I believe her. I completely believe her. Like, uncritically, I believe Rina. So, thinking about how I had been acting up until now, it wasn't hard to imagine that my behavior could have been perceived as strange. So Rina was concerned. At a quick glance, that's how it would seem. But I wasn't going to let my guard down that easily. Even if that was really the case, she still wouldn't have had to do something like try to tail me. She would have called out to me when I was leaving and gone out right with me. No, hello? What? No, because you just had this disagreement. I guess I don't know how else to word it, but you just had like a tense social moment, and, you know, Rina's shy. She's not like hello? Like, you just... Rina tells you, oh, you must not like us because we're girls, you don't want to hang out with us anymore. And then you just get up and leave, and you think Rina's just gonna immediately follow you, and just, like, that's bizarre. But Rena didn't do that. She kept her distance from me and matched my walking speed. Yeah, she's probably nervous. She just like she is right now. You're walking carrying a bat and kind of acting like a lunatic lately. Yeah, she's nervous. Like, on top of that, she matched the sound of her footsteps and deviously tried to hide her presence from me. I think he's just crazy. I don't believe that at all. I think that, like, then, after she realized I noticed she was there, she held her breath as she tried hiding from me. Yeah, because you're screaming like a lunatic. You have a bat that you're swinging around, and you're screaming that you already know someone's there and acting like a maniac. She wore a timid expression that would force one to take pity on her, but without a doubt, she was tailing me. Yeah, because she's worried about you.
もうついてくんなよ。
Still glaring at Rena, I continued walking onwards. After I'd walked for a bit, she ignored my command and began walking again, so I yelled at her once more. Well, yeah, I mean, don't you walk home the same way? She's trying to go home.
ついてくるなって言ってるだろ。
Yeah.
だってレナの家も同じ方向だし。
じゃあレナが先を歩けよ。
Oh,
レナが見え
God.
なくなったら俺も歩く。
I moved out of the way and waved my bat violently to urge her forward.
レナはケイイチ君と一緒に帰りたいな。
Making a pitiful expression, she meekly squeaked out the words in a voice that she knew would cut into my heart. No, she's not. Like, no, he just, like... she's not doing this on purpose for some crazy ulterior reason. I don't believe it. That agitated me to no end. I knew it was a lie. If you wanted to go home together, then you should have called out to me. No, because you're acting like a maniac. So, like... now you're just blurting out random lies. It seemed that the seething anger within me was written all over my face. It's like he expects complete, perfect openness and you know, everything from his friends, despite the fact that hasn't talked to them about anything. He's hiding just as much stuff from them. All the stuff with Oishi, like... I didn't read that. Even without me saying anything, Rena had understood what I was feeling inside. I swung the bat, urging her again to walk. Rena looked back and forth between me and the bat and started walking hesitantly, then stopped again.
早く行けよ早く。
行くからそのバットやめてよ。怖いの。
Yeah. Rena guarded herself for pointing at me holding the bat. She may have realized that I wasn't planning on using this bat from baseball. I lowered the bat, but still guardedly opened the way for her.
行けよ。これなら文句ないだろ。
I think there is still a problem. There was nothing else she could protest. She passed by me timidly so as to not set me off. As I watched her pass by, she stopped completely after having barely moved at all.
おい、立ち止まるなよ。
Then a powerful gust blew past us, barraging my face with dust. Oh no. The dust got into my eyes and clouded my vision. Like, you know, if we think about the first time that Rena went into her, you know, scary mode, it was just after Keiichi asked a pretty accusatory question of her, right? This is a lot worse than that, how he's acting now. While rubbing my eyes with my left hand, I swung blindly with the bat in my right, protecting the small opening I had presented. I don't think they're going to physically attack you. But Rena didn't even try to attack during that opening. Attack me? No. She hadn't budged an inch. I could tell from the sound of her fluttering skirt in the wind. As her skirt settled, so did the silence. At that moment, the voice inside of me immediately warned me of impending danger. I was caught by surprise. The smell of the air had changed. Without me realizing it, the air around me suddenly felt like a calamity was about to befall me. Jesus. It was like the air had suddenly become invisible concrete, like Rena and I were locked in this space. Rena didn't move an inch. Also unable to move, I stared at her back. Rena was the first to break the silence. Instantly, she altered her stance. I felt like I had just witnessed her shift from Rena into that other person who looks like Rena. But the voice was one I knew well, which filled me with a kind of bewildering pity. Carelessly, I felt relief upon hearing that pitiful voice.
ごめんね。 てもいい？
Too shy to even turn around, Rena squeezed her voice out desperately. Yeah, because you're acting crazy. As she trembled.
なんだよ。
あのね、あのね、どうしてバットなんか持ってるのかな？
Well, the question Rena asked was by no means unexpected.
俺が何を持ってたっていいだろ。
でも、昨日まで持ってなかったし、どうして突然？
別に突然でもいいだろ。俺がバットを持ってるとおかしいかよ。
だって圭一くん、野球とかしない人だったでしょ？おかしいよ。
I couldn't tell what kind of answer she was looking for, and I was getting tired of answering her.
突然野球がしたくなったんだ
Well,
よ。それじゃおかしいか？
おかしいよ。
she answered instantly, and that annoyed me slightly.
突然野球がしたくなった。素振りがしたくなったからバットを持ち歩いてる。それのどこが変なんだよ。
変。おかしい。絶対。なんで圭一くんまで。
You too.
ぶつくさとうるせえやつだな。
Why you too? Right? She, Rena had her own incident with a bat, right? I don't really know why specifically a bat would play into this, but Rena had her own incident with a bat, right?
俺がスポーツに目覚めるのがそんなに変かよ。
I tried to sound a bit more threatening to end the conversation. Until my suspicions about Rena were cleared, I had no obligation to answer her questions.
ごめんね。そんなに怒らないで。
Please, but Rena still didn't turn around and spat out words of apology right after the next.
最後に一個だけ教えて。
これ以上話す気も教える気もねえよ。早く行けよ。
I yelled loudly out at her, causing her to flinch like she had been struck. Seeing her in such a pathetic state caused my heart to ache sorely. But even though she was afraid, she stubbornly kept herself from moving. Before I was able to threaten her again, Rena asked her final question.
なんでバットまで
Is
同
your
じな
bat
の？
the same? What did she mean by the bat was the same? I had no idea what she was talking about.
お前何言ってんだ？
なんでバットま
The
で
same
同
as
じなのかな
what?
って。
何を言ってんだか全然わかんねえよ。もっとはっきり言え。
Even still, Rena didn't turn around. After inhaling deeply, she screamed.
だから
Oh
どうしてバット
no.
までサトシ君と同
Okay.
じなの？
So Satoshi had some weird shit with a bat too. What happened? What's up with the bat? Why is the bat like the thing? Oh god. So did Satoshi? Oh no.
サトシ
And Satoshi was Onikakushi'd, right? He was Onikakushi'd at the same time as the Hojo lady, right? The lady who is the wife of the brother of the guy. Yeah, that one. Upon hearing that name out of the blue, I became dumbfounded for a brief moment. By Satoshi, did she mean the student who transferred out last year? Yeah, transferred out. No, that couldn't be. Runa had tried to cover it up by saying he transferred, but Oishi-san told me quite clearly that he was missing. He was the student who sat at my seat up until last year. He was believed to have been demoned away by Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't know the details about his disappearance. The aunt he lived with was killed the night of the Watanagashi by a drug addict, and not long after that, he suddenly vanished and was now missing. So think about this, right? Satoshi, if he had a bat, and let's say that he was probably doing very similar things to Keiichi is doing right now, right? This whole bat stuff, you know, I assume Ren is bringing it up because Satoshi did similar things with the same bat, apparently. How did this end for Satoshi? He was Onikakushi'd. So, where is this going for Keiichi then? That Satoshi and I were what? My gaze fell to the bat in my hands. Could it be? Satoshi Hoja, yep. It was a bit difficult to see, but that was what was written on the white tape at the end of the bat. I see, so this was Satoshi's bat.
Oh.
Oh.
サトシのバットだったんだ。
Yeah, it's like Keiichi is on this path to being Onikakushi'd. Exactly the same as Satoshi. Like,
誰も使ってなかったんでちょっと借りたんだよ。いいだろそれくらい。
そんなことじゃないの。
the way Rena said that made it seem like this bat was something that should never be touched. Like it was some sort of offering at a shrine, or a memento of the deceased. I could only stand there, perplexed and unable to respond. Rena continued speaking without waiting for a reply.
サトシ君の時とどうして
Oh,
そんなに
yeah,
同じな
yeah.
の？
Okay, what do you mean by it? What do you mean when it happened to him? Rena was talking about more than just the bat belonging to Satoshi.
サトシ君もそうだった。野球チームには入ってたけど、
Mhm.
本当は野球
Okay.
なんか好きじゃない人だったのに。
それが俺とどう関係が。
サトシ君もある日突然バットを持ち歩き始めたの。
Alright, keep yawning.
チームに入ってただけでスポーツなんかしない
Okay.
人だったのに。
So it's just the same thing happened to him. Like, literally the same thing that Keiichi is going through happened to him, right? He was part of the club. He's, you know... what about it? I closed my mouth before I could say that out loud. They didn't say that Oishi had ever talked to Satoshi, right? Listen carefully, Keiichi. Rena is trying to tell us something important.
サトシ君もね、ある日突然一人で投稿するようになったの。ケイチ君みたいに。そしてね、ある日突然素振りの練習を始めたの。ケイチ君みたいに。そしてね、ある日突然バットを持ち歩くようになったの。
Keiichi-kun Mitani.
ケイチ君みたいに。そしてね、ある日突然。
He... Yeah. Then one day, he suddenly... What? Rena had swallowed her words. What did she mean by it? Because she said... It's like... You're doing the exact same thing as Satoshi-kun did when it happened to him. What is it? Rena had swallowed her words. Rena's sudden silence brought a hush back to the surrounding area. It was then that I could finally digest the content of the entire conversation. She was saying this, my chain of actions, was exactly the same as Satoshi's. What was the meaning of this? Up until now, I'd forgotten all about Satoshi. I'd never paid much thought to him in the first place. Not only that, I didn't even know anything of what he'd done. My actions today should have been my own creation, after all the planning I had done. But they had been the exact same as Satoshi's? Then Satoshi, no, more importantly, if both Satoshi and I acted the same, then there was a really good possibility that what happened after would be the same. Uh-huh.
レナ、ある日突然、サトシはどうしたんだよ。
Rena knew. She knew what became of Satoshi. No, forget about what happened to a guy in the past. Rena knew what was going to happen to me.
答えろよ、レナ。サトシはどうしたんだよ。
With that, I grabbed Rena's shoulder violently and forcibly turned her around to face me. As I faced her, I felt a jolt travel through my entire body. Yeah. Yep.
言ったよね、ケイチ君。
It was that person that I didn't know. At least, it definitely wasn't the Rena Ryukyu I'd been talking to up till now. The voice just now didn't have a trace of the trembling or emotion that it had had before. The amount of regret I felt for turning her around so carelessly was unsurpassed. That gaze that pierced like a cold needle, the smile on her face that invoked an image of having been carved out by a knife. Chills went down my spine. My mind froze under a layer of rime. Both of Rena's eyes pierced through mine, leaving me unable to look away. As if to remind me of the fear from that time before, Rena brought her face close to mine, so close that I could feel her breath. Her face had filled my entire field of vision. Then, her sharply shaped lips grew even sharper. Like the curve of a crescent moon, she grinned.
言ったよね、ケイチ君。
After a short pause, Rena repeated the same words again.
サトシ君はね、転校しちゃったの。
He transferred. He transferred out. Transferred. Meaning what? Where did he transfer to? What? Like, if being Onikakushi is you're transferring somewhere, what's... What Rena meant must have been some new definition of transfer that I was previously not aware of. My throat and lips dried up. I couldn't even acknowledge what I had just heard. All I could do was swallow down my own saliva. It would seem that Rina saw that as a nod. She pulled her gaze back and spryly stepped back 2-3 paces. As she did, my legs gave out and I fell to my knees pathetically. Yeah, like if his plan to defend himself physically if they attack him, like, that's not gonna work, because he kind of just collapses like this, you know? Rina, and me on my knees underneath her emotionless smile. That had to be a very odd sight indeed. Seeing me in that pathetic state, she neither scoffed at me nor held out her hand. But I could neither stand nor escape with her gaze shooting through my eyes. There was undoubtedly a metal bat in my hand, but right now it was useless to me. I was like a fly caught in her web. Heavy sweat beaded all over my body. I could feel it dripping from my skin.
しないよねケイチ君は
Rina finally released me from that cage of time after what felt like an eternity. But her question was missing something important and was incredibly vague. Once again, I swallowed hard, urging her on.
何をだよ。
You won't transfer? What did she not want me to do?
転校
Okay. I don't know. Is Keiichi gonna transfer? Dude, that was very different than the previous time Rina acted like this, I feel like. Satoshi and I had what? All my well-planned actions throughout the day turned out to have been nothing more than a reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi, had he really been in the same situation as I was now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly, and for no reason, at least none that I had noticed, planned to kill him? No, I don't think. I think you're thinking about it the wrong way. I don't think that's the thought process. Then, fearing for his life as I am, he got a bat to protect himself and carried it around every day to practice his swing. Then one day, suddenly, he transferred. Yeah, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards, from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still at wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who would be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the single key attached to my first seal keychain. Being reminded of the first seal keychain is sad. I stepped into the entryway. Just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. Someone had entered right behind me. Okay? Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through to the door. Yeah, hello? Is, like... But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How do you know they're there, even though they're right behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason I'd hear that sound. That was the presence. Because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Keiichi Maibara, there's no way you could hear that. My most base instincts were warning me of the presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was nobody behind me. I began to erase the mental image of an eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? As an uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Keiichi is losing his mind. That's what's going on, actually. That's what's happening. Actually, wouldn't it be better if there was somebody there? If there was nobody there when you turned around, would you be able to accept that? This just feels like the same, like, curse versus not curse dilemma. Like, I'd be able to answer all of those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. Oh, right, I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. Man, I feel like I'm reading way too much into it. I just feel like this whole... There's someone being behind you that you don't have the courage to look at. I feel like you can get a lot of literary meaning from that, where that could, like, be an analogy for or representation of. It was a random thought. I didn't care how I went about it, just so long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that wouldn't have solved anything.
どなたですか
Jesus. I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There's no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time, I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of somebody inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to this current predicament. A scream. All the force in my body released from my lungs and tore through my throat, ceasing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. He's just going insane. He's just crazy. He's just losing his mind. That's just what it has to be. He's just insane. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around. Until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision. They were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there, but were they actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened lucidity, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand as if it were drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest attack to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. He's just going crazy. He has just lost his mind. I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of that amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. But there was nothing there, so we just swing at nothing. There's nothing there, he just thinks there's something there, and he's trying to attack it. Okay, cool. I feel like you could view this as well as, showing how this whole bat thing is not gonna work for self-defense. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard, and it was embedded in, and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. My screams shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Correct. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy, there but not there, dispersed. Awesome. Good job, Keiichi. Let's go. You cleared the enemy. He's lost his mind. Two possibilities here, right? Either he's lost his mind, or there is weird supernatural stuff going on, and that's just part of it. But I don't know. When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way. Had it only feigned retreat and was now inside my house? Please. Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence, but it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body, and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All of the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest, exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back a little. Even after clearing my mind of all my idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in my confused state, but I really didn't think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Compose yourself. I mean, I don't know, is he just... Because now it's like we have a dilemma with this too, where it's either he's going crazy, or this is more weird supernatural stuff, right? Or both. Maybe the weird supernatural stuff is making him go crazy, right? But no matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomena, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. But how would you know? How would you know that? How would you know if it was or not, right? Proof, I had just one piece. When I asked who was it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by the supernatural phenomena known as Oishiro-sama's curse. Yeah, that's what I was just, yes, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, that would mean admitting that it was Rina and the rest of them doing it. But it would be solvable. But that's also insane. Like, I can't accept that. Right? Uishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it was a manifestation of Oishiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Uishi-san very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable. But as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, it suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Uishi-san that this was the work of Oishiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without question that a void would expand rapidly between myself and Uishi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse, there was no merit to doing that. I'd better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It would be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. I feel like that's a mistake. I don't know. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually just confused when I thought I was composed, and I was just going berserk in the entryway. Maybe, but like, how wonderful would that be if that was what really happened? I would be able to refute Oishiro-sama's curse, but if I denied Oishiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting Rina and the rest were the perpetrators. If I said that Rina and the rest were the perpetrators, then that would mean believing in Oishiro-sama's curse. By denying both of those, I'd be admitting that I myself was losing it. Thank you, I'm glad they've spelled it out. The thing I've been talking about how, like, this is it, you know, it's a... These are the three possibilities. They're all very difficult to accept, but seriously, this last one feels like the most possible, so... The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has happened. What has actually happened is reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out that I was delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Considering how I think this is going to end, I don't think it is wonderful. So, Oishiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist, and I would still be the bestest buddies with Rina and the rest. I would have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life I'd ever wished for such a thing. And now it's just making me doubt it so much because he's thinking about it. So, like, dude, the author is so good at this, at making me second-guess everything I think forever. The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. You know what? I might have to stop here. I don't know how much longer this chapter is, but I have to go do something in like 10 minutes, and this seems like a pretty good stopping point. So I hate to break it off in the middle of a chapter when I don't know how long this is going to be. You know, I'll keep going. I'll keep going for now. I'll keep going for 10 minutes. How about that? And then hopefully we'll be at a good stopping point. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. But since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs.
もしもし、前原です。
ケイチ、お母さんだ
Oh,
けど。
hi. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. It was because I thought she was going to ask me to go out and buy some things. So I took the initiative.
何？別に俺、夕食はインスタントでもいいよ。まだいっぱいあったでしょ。
The other day, we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds, actually, but they refused since the individual packs were more expensive. So instead, I got a whole case of the mega-sized pork bone and ginger flavored ones I liked. Awesome. But my parents don't like strong flavors and didn't touch any of them, so the cupboards were still full of them.
だからさ、買い物に行く必要はないんじゃないの？
ケイイチ、買い物のお願いじゃないの。お父さんとお母さんね、お仕事
Oh
に
no.
急遽東京に行か
They're
な
gonna
く
be
ちゃならない
gone.
の。
え？今から？
This was really abrupt.
もう着いちゃった。
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. They're gone.
出発してたからね。
It's quite a distance from Tokyo to Hinamizawa. Gunning at full speed down the highway would still take 6 hours. Dad has a license, but since he doesn't like the highway, they likely took the train. It would have taken longer.
ケイイチもお父さんとお母さんの話を聞いてたからわかるかもしれないけど、
Oh no,
お父さんのお
dude.
仕事の契約がね、今ちょっとうまくいってないの。
Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked all the time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good.
お父さんはそういうのに繊細な人だから、このままだとお仕事にも影響が出ちゃうの。
Part of my father's particular fragile artistic personality, his emotions changed as easily as the fall sky. You could also just say he couldn't take
で
criticism.
も、そんなの電話でやり取りすればいいじゃないか。
ケイイチ、お父さんのお仕事なんだから、もうちょっと応援してあげて。
Oh
とにかく電
no.
話よりも直接会って話した方が早いの。誤解もないし。
As their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work.
だから帰るのは明日の晩になっちゃう。
Oh no, I have a feeling, I know we're near the end, so I have a feeling whatever is gonna go down is gonna go down before tomorrow night, before they get back.
ケイイチ、一人で。
別に死にはしないよ。
ケイイチ、死んじゃうなんて軽々しく
Don't say that, Keiichi. Keiichi, do not say that. Like, oh no.
心配事があったら相談してね。母さん、きっと相談に乗れると思うから。
Yesterday, I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least, not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it.
死なないよ。
Yeah, if you say so, man, just like how Toмотake-san was gonna come back next year and hang out with everyone again, you know?
俺は、あがいてでも生き延びる。
そう。じゃあね。明日の朝、ちゃんと起きるのよ。朝ごはんは食べてね。お風呂と歯磨きも忘れないのよ。
へいへい。そんじゃ。
The call ended like that. Sometimes, my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings. But Tokyo is far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather, unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone, missing, vanished. Oh, yeah, he's thinking the exact same thing. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light on in the whole house was from my room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone and this was their chance. First I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned the TV on to a reassuring volume. He is just so paranoid, and so, Next was the study. I similarly turned on the lights and some music. With this, from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. Ah, the garage. They hadn't gone all the way from Tokyo by car, but they had still gone up to Okinomiya Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. I panicked and rushed out the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. Ah, I needed to get the paper. Mom always got the paper. Since they left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it on the entryway. With this, for sure, this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that from my little freakout was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little before Mom got back and scolded me. It's just crazy how he's like thinking of these little things like this, while also thinking like, okay, I'm gonna be dead by this time tomorrow. Like, I remembered that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. As I was going to get them, the phone rang once again.
もしもし、前原です。
あら、ケイイチくん、お母様はいらっ
Oh
しゃいます
God!
かしら
Oh no! What do we do?
今ちょっといないんですけど。
You idiot, Keiichi Maibara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down and take care of it.
すぐに戻ると思います。
Okay. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say they'll call again, or to tell her to call with them when she comes back.
なら結構です。
Oh, dude.
大した話でもありませんから。では失礼しますわね。
The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I have to deal with any telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. He cannot catch a break. It was like they were calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. I stopped announcing this was the Maibara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. What are you talking about? But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and lighthearted. Uishi. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to continue next time. I'm sorry. But if Uishi's calling, I feel like we've probably got a ways to go. So, sorry, gotta save here. Sorry, I just muted my mic for a second there. But, you know, the author spelled out all of these things that I was thinking about in terms of, like, what I think could be going on here with Keiichi. Like, the first thing I thought is, like, okay, let's say Oyashiro-sama, let's say the curse, the supernatural element here is actually that Keiichi is being affected by Oyashiro-sama. And so is Satoshi, right? Let's say that's what's happening. And him acting so crazy, seeing all this crazy stuff, is an effect of the curse, right? And the curse is going to make him kill people with the bat, right? Because in the opening scene, we see, again, who I assume is Keiichi, he's been our narrator the whole time, killing someone with a bat. I think that's Keiichi's going to kill someone with this bat, right? So let's say that's the curse. Let's say the curse is making him do that. That this whole time, the curse has been affecting him. All of this crazy paranoia and stuff has been caused by the curse. And that the same thing happened to Satoshi, right? Let's say Satoshi is the one who killed, you know, they say it was that drug addict who killed his aunt. Let's say it was actually Satoshi who killed his aunt, right? For the same reason, some crazy paranoia stuff started happening. He started carrying around the bat, and then he kills his aunt with the bat. And then he gets Onikakushi, which I don't know what that means. But if that's what's happening, I feel like that would make sense to me. I feel like that kind of fits with, like, what's been going on for Keiichi. But they kind of, like, spelled that out, and he was thinking, like, oh, maybe I'm just being possessed by Yoshiro-sama. So that makes me think that that's not what is happening. Because would the author just, like, spell it out? I don't think so. I don't know. I'm sorry I have to cut this off in the middle of this, but I just don't have time for a super long one today. So, thank you guys for watching. Leave a comment, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.